Hello, everybody. How's it going? Interesting day. Good day. Let's talk about it. So, MagnaChip woke up this morning to a new bidder at $35 a share. It's a consortium of, I think, 4 different entities. One of them is a U.S. investor, and I think all the rest are Chinese investors. There's a lot of very odd things about this, but I think it's credible. And I think it's credible because all 4 of the entities are credible. So there's no reason why they would be proposing to bid to hype the stock up to sell stock in the open market kind of thing, which you get sometimes with fake groups or fake bidders. The other reason why I think it's credible is MagnaChip definitely did due diligence on the bid before they put a press release out saying that they were going to negotiate a definitive merger agreement to see whether or not it is worthwhile to call this bid a higher offer in the merger agreement. Okay, my dog needs to go out. Hold on one second. Let's go. Now, there's a lot to unpack here, though. So why did they bid $35 when the other bid was $29? Why didn't they bid $30, right? I don't have a good explanation for that, except maybe they talked to MagnaChip behind closed doors over the last week, and Wise Road and them kind of went into a bidding war behind the scenes, and they ended up at 35, which was the level that Wise Road wasn't willing to match. That's the best I can come up with. I have no idea why they bid so much over the 29. In the end, you're going to have the exact same problems with this bidding group as you have with Wise Road. So if Wise Road gets blocked, then this would probably get blocked, right? Now, that's not to say Wise Road was going to get blocked or is going to get blocked, but that's obviously the reason why the stock's trading $25.60 versus a $35 indication. The really interesting angle of this is if you believe this new bidding group is credible, and I do, they know that MagnaChip is not going to sign an agreement with them unless they propose a very large breakup fee in case of a regulatory block. In fact, it might have to be even more than the previous regulatory breakup fee, because now MagnaChip knows how much heat they're in with the United States and with Korea, and they wouldn't go through the trouble of agreeing to a new deal unless they get paid in the event of a breakup. If the new bidding group knows this and they still went forward with this $35 bid, it kind of speaks volumes to the confidence they must have in their ability to get the deal done. Now, there's so many moving parts. Maybe the new bidding group is more powerful in China, and China can use its influences to get the deal approved in South Korea. I always believed if South Korea is okay with this, and the United States will be okay with this. Ultimately, I have no idea what happens. What I do know is that this highlights, to me, what I've been saying all along, which is that this is a cheap stock, and deal or no deal, you know, you're getting something at a low earnings multiple, net of cash, net of breakup fee. So I still put a low probability that either of the deals ultimately go through. However, I would say there's at least a 50% chance that this new bidding group signs a definitive merger agreement with MagnaChip. I don't think MagnaChip would have put the press release out today if they weren't far enough along to know that they were credible. And we know they're credible based on who they are. And then I don't think that this bidding group would have got this far if they did not understand that they would have to pay a big breakup fee in the case of regulatory breakup. Those would be the 2 things that could keep agreement from happening, right? The group's not credible, or the group isn't willing to pay the reverse termination fee that Wise Road was going to pay. I sold a little bit of stock in pre-market. I am very big in this. It was a gigantic position, upwards of 40% delta adjusted. Delta adjusted means if you adjust it for the options. So I'm still over 30% in it. So one lesson to take away from that is when you ask somebody if they're buyers or sellers or holding, it always has to be in the context of how big their position is. Because if someone has a 2% position and doubled it today to a 4% position, I'm still more bullish than they are, because my position today is 30%. So it's kind of irrelevant the direction I went. It's more about where I'm at today, because you should always look at your portfolio as if you were putting it on fresh in any given day. So if I woke up right now, it would be a 30% delta adjusted position. And other part of the reason why I sold some is that Interactive Brokers has gotten very punitive with the margin on this. It's like a 50% margin requirement. So that freed up a lot of margin for me. But I haven't done anything since the open. I did that in pre-market, and we'll see what happens with the in the next week. So they only pushed the meeting out from the 15th to the 17th, and they said they're going to announce the new meeting time on the 15th. So my guess would be that we will wake up on Monday to a definitive agreement or a press release saying that there's no agreement, because it's a very tight time frame between when they're going to hold the shareholder meeting. So they probably needed the weekend to iron out a contract. Maybe it takes till Tuesday, and we'll see. The market's obviously very skeptical because, again, if Wiserode can't go through, then why would this be able to go through? And ARBs are in it for the deal, not for a break, right? So even if the deal was $50 a share, they're not interested in holding this post break. I do think this raises your break price. I've always said I never thought the break price it never made sense. A lot of ARBs were using $19 sub break price. I think there's a lot to be said now that your break price will not go below 23 or 22.50 level, and it'll be a very strong buy, in my opinion, at those levels if it does happen. So you're still not paying a lot for this. You're not paying a lot for either deal, the 29 or the 35. And if they don't sign this, you probably go back into the 23s. I don't think you go below the 23, but somewhere in the 23s, and which is just where we were before today, right? I don't think this makes you go lower than where you were before today, obviously. So maybe you go even to 24. Maybe it has a little bit of a bump, knowing that you have yet more interest in this company. But as you can see, it's at the day low, and it's been fading all day. I think it holds this level. It holds 25 today, but we'll see. So with that, what are the questions? How do the breakup fees work in all scenarios, and where are you a seller? I mean, I sold some of it above 27.50 today. Again, it's all about how big you are in the position. So if I only had a 2% position, I probably wouldn't have sold any then. If it was above 30 today, I would sell significant more of my position, because as a fundamental investor in this, I do think it's worth $30, but my margin of safety is much less net of cash than it is at 23. As an event-driven investor, how do you balance event versus value, both for stock and overall portfolio? It's a good question, Christopher. I went into this position as a value investor, though I originally bought it over a year ago for an event. They were selling their foundry business, and I thought that would create value overall, and the stock would re-rate, and the stock didn't re-rate. So in a lot of ways, this is like a legacy position that I had from when I had it on as an event. And with Groupon, that was never really an event-driven stock, though I thought that they could sell themselves. So I like catalysts, and with Groupon, I see the catalyst being the next few quarters of earnings. With MagnaChip, I see the catalyst being, if this breaks up, then we're going to get a recap of some form. And after that, I'll reanalyze whether I want to be this big in it from a fundamental perspective. Almost all my positions these days have some element of event in it. The breakup fees work as follows. If MagnaChip takes a higher bid right now, they have to pay Wiserode, I think like 40 million or something, but that'll be paid by the new buyer. So we won't pay that. If the US or South Korea block this deal, MagnaChip gets $1.50 per share if the US blocks it, and I think $2 per share if Korea blocks it. If a new bidder comes in, they have to sign a new agreement with MagnaChip, and it'll probably be similar, where MagnaChip demands a similar level of breakup fee if either the US or if Korea blocks it. What do you think happens if shareholders approve next week? Is MX responsible for the breakup fee if they go with cornucopia? That's a good question. There will not be a vote next week if they have agreed to a new deal. The reason why they moved the vote from June 15th to June 17th is to give them time to negotiate a definitive merger agreement with Cornucopia. We'll know Monday or Tuesday if this bid is real or if this bid is not. MagnaChip put out a press release saying they have signed a new merger agreement with Cornucopia and that the shareholder meeting is canceled and the breakup fee will be paid to Wise Road. If there is no new merger agreement, then the June 17th vote will go on as planned and shareholders will vote for it. So that's the way to look at it. Any other questions? It only took 10 minutes. I'm surprised it's in the 25s. I would have thought it closed today at like 26.50, 27. Because even then, I mean, I think that you have a really good risk reward with the $29 bid. And I think your break is, like I said, higher than people thought it was. But, you know, I've always thought it should be 26 or 27. So, I thought the 23 was ridiculous. That's why I made it so big. Any other questions about anything? I mean, let's play this out. This is a group of a consortium of 4 firms, all respectable, that have had 3 full months to look at this company, right? MagnaChip signed the original agreement in March, April, May, June, 90 days basically since the original agreement was signed. All of the South Korea and US issues have been blared from a microphone, from a megaphone. And we wake up today to a press release saying that a new bidding group wants to pay $35 a share. And MagnaChip is going to try to spend the weekend to see if they can sign a definitive agreement. I can't come up with a reason why that wouldn't be credible. Again, the only way it would be because it's fraud, and the new bidding group is selling stock all day today through some offshore account to take advantage of this pop. And is that possible? It is, except it seems unlikely to me with 4 different firms being used in the consortium name and a reputable investment bank or advisor that is spearheading it. Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No. How do you handle the tax risk of them paying a massive dividend at some point? You just have to sell before the X date and buy back 30 days later? I don't think that's a tax risk, Abe. I mean, the dividend would be, either qualified income, which is great, and my cost basis goes down, from it. So I'm not worried about tax slippage. I also think they might just do a tender offer. They do some sort of tender offer, then you wouldn't have any tax implications. But I'm not concerned about. I'm never concerned about tax leakage from a one-time dividend. Yeah, got to assume they get sued if they don't accept Cornucopia. They'll accept it if it's real, right? They have to get financing guaranteed, and they have to agree on the breakup fee. If they have financing and they agree on the breakup fee, they'll have to accept it because Wise Road's a Chinese buyer, and they can't say that this is more risky than Wise Road is. I bet someone yesterday by 12/31 on a percentage basis, Groupon will outperform Bitcoin. How do you like my side? That's awesome. I don't know what's going to happen to Bitcoin. I'm fascinated with Bitcoin as a spectator. What's it doing today? 37,000. I don't know the answer to that. Obviously, I think Groupon could double between now and the end of the year. So it seems unlikely Bitcoin is 75,000, but Bitcoin moves a lot. So I don't know. That's a really great, very funny trade, a funny bet. This is a really strange bid, no? Another Chinese firm comes and bids 35 when the offer's only 29. How real do you think this is? You must have just got on, Punta. I explained my thoughts on that. I don't understand why they bid 35 when the other one was 29. There is a possibility that behind closed doors, Wise Road came back to MagnaChip and said that they were willing to go up. And there was kind of a back and forth between this firm, Wise Road, and MagnaChip, and 35 was the level that got to when Wise Road said, we're not going to go to 35. And this is now why they're going to take the time to see whether or not they can get to a definitive agreement. I'm not really a merger, lawyer, so I don't even know if that's even legal. If they could do a kind of a three-way thing like that. Usually what you see is each firm bidding one at a time. So they bid 30, then Wise Road comes back and says they match it, and they bid 31 and whatever. But to come over the top this strong is part of the reason why I think the market's skeptical. Can't really see any reason why they wouldn't go with the new bidders, fiduciary responsibility. Well, I'm telling you why. It would be that the new bidders are bullshit. That they go to try to sign the definitive agreement and they don't have the money, and the money would have to be in an offshore fund, just like Wise Road. They have to put up immediately the breakup fee in case it's blocked by regulatory. And then finally, they'd have to agree to that breakup fee if it's blocked by regulatory. If they can't do that, over the course of the weekend, then MagnaChip's going to just move on. It's my belief that they'll be able to do that, quite frankly. I don't understand how this would be a fake bid, given the number of people involved and the reputableness of the people. If you Google the first guy, who's the only American, he's a major, hold on one second. If you Google the main guy, you'll see Tim, whatever his name is. He seems like a really legitimate guy, and again, sorry, I got distracted. He's not putting his name to this if it's a pump and dump scheme. I think he used to be chairman of a $3 billion American company, the main guy. Again, you can Google his name, the first guy that's on there. Let's see, I'll pull it up. The first guy's name is Tim Crown. They purposely put him first because he's the American face of the whole thing. Google Tim Crown investor, and you'll see he's a legit guy. He was co-founder and chairman of Insight Enterprises, and I think he founded it, and that's a multi-billion-dollar company. He's not putting his name to this as a pump and dump scheme. How do we know? Do we know if this is one of the original bidders? They've probably already been vetted, and MX wouldn't announce unless they were vetted already. It's great. That's a great question, Fat Eddie. I love your name, Fat Eddie. I have no idea if they're one of the original bidders. I do believe that MX would not put this press release out if they did not already vet them from a credibility standpoint. And they are credible. This guy is founded a multi-billion-dollar American company. So, MX isn't looking to pump their stock. It's to help somebody commit fraud and sell into this bid. The question remains is whether or not they can sign definitive agreement, and I think it's likely they can. I can't answer why they bid so much over the 29. I can tell you that MagnaChip, with the right amount of leverage on it as an LBO, where you put 4 or 5 turns of leverage on it, can easily support a $35 valuation. You're going from a massive net cash position to a net debt position with a decent amount of leverage on it, and your equity commitment is not as substantial, and you'll get very good IRRs from a private equity standpoint. Do you have a view on the semi industry right now? That's pretty funny. I definitely don't, Kevin. I am pretty much ignorant when it comes to pretty much every industry. I couldn't even tell you exactly what MagnaChip does, besides that they're mostly a design company for OLED. I don't even know what OLED stands for, though I do know that it's on my phone. For you, if you're new here, generally speaking, I approach investments from a pure numbers and special situations perspective, and a lot of it just a lot of psychology, where I think whether a company is in play or with a Groupon situation, all of that wasn't because I'm an expert in online retailing or deals, although Groupon's a much easier company to analyze. But with MagnaChip, I've simply looked at the numbers over the last year, and I see the direction of the numbers, and I'm very confident that it's in a secular tailwind, and I'm not worried about there being kind of technological risk here in the near term. And the 10 bidders for the company prove that to me, right? They definitely know a lot about the semi industry. So regarding the industry shortfalls right now, it's affected MagnaChip, but it hasn't affected them as much as other companies. And to me, that's just a tailwind to current numbers. They say they have more demand than supply, but no, I know nothing about the semi industry. From a regulatory approval standpoint, this doesn't really change anything. I just don't get the bid with all the trouble they're currently having. That's exactly right, Punta. But I can assure you that that group has spent a lot more money and time on diving into the regulatory issues here than you or I have. So there's probably more than meets the eye behind the scenes, either with what Wise Road is seeing in reality from a regulatory perspective, and what MagnaChip's seeing in reality with a regulatory perspective, and what that group is seeing. And that group is not going to pay $100 million for a regulatory breakup fee, unless they're pretty confident that this will go through. So if they do sign a definitive agreement, and that agreement includes a $100 million breakup fee in it, you have to be pretty confident that there's at least a 50% chance the deal goes through. Because these guys have had a free look. They've had 3 months to go see what's happening with regulatory, and they've had 3 months to do their due diligence on what's actually happening behind the scenes with South Korea and the United States. But really, South Korea is what matters here, not the United States. From an appearance perspective, by the way, it looks like a London company is buying MagnaChip. It's a London company with a bunch of LPs. And the LPs are probably primarily Chinese-based. So I'm not saying it's going to be easier to get. Well, it should be easier than Wise Road, but it is a London-based company with an American investor and a bunch of Chinese investors. So they probably think that helps them. Here, you appreciate your thoughts on this. Yep. I'd just be really surprised. I mean, the more I think about it, I'd be really surprised if we don't get a definitive agreement here. Obviously, the market's saying we won't, and the market's saying it's not going to go through. But to me, it's just logic. I don't know how they would get to this point and then not get to the finish line on Monday or Tuesday. But we'll see. It's going to be a fun weekend. One trade I do like that's risky. So the stock I sold it in another account, a family account too, and it was actually a buddy of mine gave me the idea. I sold some July and a little August 25 puts to make back the stock that I sold in the family account. It'll obviously go below 25 if this doesn't happen, and it could go below 25 anyway if the deal gets blocked, I guess, in the next month. It's not going to get blocked by the middle of July, of course. So that's one way to play it. If you did sell some and you want to buy it back lower, you can sell 25 puts, but I didn't do that in my own account. I did that in a family account I have because I'm just too big in my own account, and I was happy to lighten up a little bit. With the tax stuff, if you're planning to hold for a few years and you pay a dividend equal to like 5-10% of your position up front in exchange for the adjust basis years later, that makes it more expensive for us relative to a non-taxable entity. No. I don't really ever hold stocks for many years. So I think most likely what would happen, Abe, is that I would pay the tax, And then within 6 months, I would take a capital gain anyway on the rest of my position. And you're not talking about a gigantic tax here. Let's say they pay a $6 or $7 dividend. I'm paying what, $1 in taxes? And again, it should lower my cost basis because it's a one-time dividend. So let's talk about that when the time comes. I'm not so worried about that right now. Now the dog wants to come in. Hold on one second. Come on. Any other questions? I like the Groupon move today. Groupon and MX are like by far my biggest positions. I mean, Groupon's even bigger than MX. So, you know, they both have the risk to them. They're different kinds of risks, but what Groupon and MX does, so goes my portfolio. So today it goes good. All right. I could talk to you guys all day, but there's no point in me staying here. Sorry if you covered this in a previous video. We now have bids 29 and 35. Are there any US-based companies can they bid this and say 32, get the deal done? You know, it's a great question, Punta. I'm not even sure a US-based company can buy this. So South Korea is now, you know, try to open this Pandora's box of this being NFT. And if they do go through with that, they will really piss off China if they say a US investor can purchase this. And guess what? China has to approve it too. So you could bet with that China would block any US bidder. Kind of retaliatory standpoint. Retaliatory? I can't say that word. Retaliation? Well, how do you say it in the correct verb or adverb? Retaliatory. That's it. So I think the only way you wake up and you're like, hallelujah, buyer comes in. And MX came out last Friday with an 8K and said not one of the bidders that were part of the process was Korean. That doesn't mean one can't come up, but that's your white knight. Your white knight is a Korean-based bidder. Of course, now it gets a little harder. If this $35 bid is credible, then a Korean bidder has to pay more than 35. So just a lot could happen. A lot could happen between now and this is all done. The fireworks are far from over. But dude, you gotta love it at 25.65. I was buying more at 25.50 before this happened. You know, back a month ago or 6 weeks ago, or whatever. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Any other questions? This, by the way, only solidifies to me that if both deals break, the company will be under immense pressure to do a dividend recap or a dividend tender offer, a leveraged tender offer for at least $5 a share, if not as much as 10 or more. They could take some debt out. What about your Twitter position? Anything new? No, I still own the Twitter position. It's mostly it's all options, but it's pretty big as an option position. And you know, that again, like I don't have any edge on Twitter. I just think that I saw a path to where this can be much higher in the next 6 to 9 months, and the options market is not pricing in the likely probability of that. So I've done nothing with it, but it's big. It's like a 10 or 12% delta adjusted position. I love the move the last few days in PSTH. It's basically stopped moving. And of course, my whole position is basically short 2250 puts. And I turn the rest of my stock into covered calls on 2250. And that's a dream of mine, would be to stick at $23 for the next 3 months. So Love that. All right, team. I'm sure I'll be back on Monday or Tuesday. Though I'm not sure what else, if they sign the definitive agreement, okay, duh. If they don't, well, I told you my views there. I mean, I think it can go into I would think it goes to the 24s, maybe 224 if it doesn't sign. I don't see how it goes. It's definitely not going to go below where it was yesterday, which was $3, 23 even, something like that. But somewhere between 23 and 24.50, 24.25 is where I think it would go if no deal is signed. Now the question should be, where does it go if the deal is signed? So if your downside right now, let's say, is 23.50, so it's 220 down. And where does it go if they sign the definitive agreement? I think it goes to 28 to 29, 28.50, let's say. So you have 250 up and 225 down. Yeah, so the market's pricing in like a 50% chance of them signing the definitive agreement, is my guess. And it's probably better than that, probably 60 or 70%, given where we are right now. So, again, that's why I wouldn't be I'm not an incremental seller here. I probably would sell some more on the definitive agreement, assuming it got, above 28. All right. Good seeing everybody. Take care. Have a nice weekend.